Okay, we will call the December 2nd meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Can we please have the roll call?
Andre Spinelli.
Here.
Radhika Krishna.
Here.
Jim Winchester.
Here.
Scott Pulis.
Here.
Jeff Ron.
Here.
Brandy Eber.
Here.
Daniel George.
Here.
Greg Strike.
Here.
Jared Gardner is excused. You have a quorum. Thank you.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for November 4th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? It's moved by Commissioner Pulis, seconded by Commissioner Eber. Anyone wishing to speak to those minutes? Any objections? Hearing none, minutes are approved. Now we'll move on to disclosures. Do any commissioners have any items they wish to disclose? I do have a disclosure in the matter of case 2024-0116 and 2024-0117. Spinell Homes owns 3 lots adjacent to this property and went through a recent rezone and change to the comp plan. And so I'm planning to recuse myself from those 2 cases. Last call for disclosures. Commissioner Ron.
No disclosures, just want to make sure we didn't have to make a motion to vote on. Okay, we're good, thanks.
Next, I'll ask for a motion to combine cases 2024-0107, S12802, and 2024-0109, and to combine cases 2024-0116 and 2024-0117. That is moved by Commissioner Krishna, seconded by Commissioner Ron. Anybody care to discuss that motion? Seeing none. Any objections? Hearing none. That motion is approved. We'll move on to the procedures by which the public may speak to the commission. After staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the commission rules of procedure. When testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the commission. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the commission. Any party of interest wishing to appeal shall first file with the planning director within 7 days of the commission's decision made on the record a written notice of intent to appeal in accordance with AMC 2103-050A4A. Commission recommendations to the Anchorage Assembly are not appealable. Following approval of written findings of fact and decision, any party of interest may within 20 days file an appeal by filing a notice of appeal and paying the appeal fee and deposit in accordance with section 2103-050. The notice of appeal must be filed with the planning director on a form prescribed by the municipality. If the appellant is not the applicant, the appellant's notice of appeal shall include proof of service on the applicant. With 3 cases having been combined, the allocated time for testimony will be tripled. Petitioner, including his or her representatives, will receive 30 minutes. Part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal. Representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs will receive 15 minutes, and individuals will receive 9 minutes. Can we please have the staff presentation on cases 2024-0107, S12802, and 2024-0109?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be doing 2024-0107 and then 2024-0109, and then Mr. Odell will do the S case. This is a comprehensive plan amendment request to change the land use designation for approximately 391 acres of land classified as transportation facility with a subclassification of intermodal transit in the Chugach-Eagle River Comprehensive Plan Update 2006 Land Use Plan Map to development services. This comprehensive plan amendment will allow for a corresponding plating action that will subdivide the project site as well as the parcel of land to the west into 13 parcels and a rezone of 13 parcels from CETR transition to CER3 multifamily residential district, CEB3 general business district, and CEI2 heavy industrial district, being heard under cases S12802 and 2024-0109. The Chugach-Eagle River Comprehensive Plan Update 2006 classified this parcel as a transportation facility with a subclassification of intermodal transit. This parcel was owned by the Alaska Railroad when the 2006 update to the plan was finalized. In 2020, this parcel was platted into its current configuration, creating a 200-foot wide tract to encompass the railroad tract. Tract 39A was then sold to Eklutna Inc. in 2021. With the change in ownership and the plat in 2020, the need to classify Tract 39A as a transportation facility with a subclassification of intermodal transit is no longer needed, therefore creating the need to amend the comprehensive plan to development reserved for further subdivision and rezoning for development. Watershed Management had an advisory comment regarding the streams located within this area. J-Bear had an advisory comment regarding noise generated from the adjacent military base activities. The other reviewing agencies had no objection. Their comments are attached in Section 3 of your staff packet. The Planning and Zoning Commission may submit a recommendation for approval, and the Assembly may approve as an amended if, in the judgment of the Commission or the Assembly, the amendment meets the following 5 criteria have been met. Criteria A, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are met. A change in projections or assumptions from those on which the comprehensive plan is based. The Chugach-Eagle River Comprehensive Plan Update 2006 classified this parcel as a transportation facility. The parcel was owned by the Alaska Railroad when the 2006 update to the plan was finalized. In 2020, this parcel was platted with the tract for the railroad tract and then sold to Eklutna in 2021. With the change in ownership and the plat, the need to classify this as a 39A as a transportation facility is no longer needed. 2, identification of new issues, needs, or opportunities that are not adequately addressed in the comprehensive plan. The proposed comprehensive plan amendment, along with the corresponding platting action and rezone request, is in response to the growing demand for more diverse development in Eagle River. The proposed amendment will allow for greater development flexibility while conserving the Class A, B, C, and D wetlands that encumber the subject parcel. The need for residential, commercial, and industrial land within Eagle River is well documented within the Chugach-Eagle River Comprehensive Plan Update. The vacant land suitability map found on page 17 shows most of this parcel and the parcel to the west as suitable land and a portion around the wetlands as marginally suitable land for future development. This amendment to development reserve is the first step required to allow for more development of this parcel. 3, a change in the policies, objectives, principles, or standards governing the physical development of the municipality or any other geographic areas addressed by the comprehensive plan. There have been no changes to the policies, objectives, principles, or standards governing this parcel. 4, identification of errors or omissions in the comprehensive plan. This request is not a result of an error or omission in the comprehensive plan. The existing designation of transportation facility follows the existing property lines and is not reflective of the actual area needed for either railroad facilities or an intermodal transportation station, which would be much smaller. This designation was likely placed upon the entire parcel for ease of mapping rather than an accurate assessment of area requirements. Criteria B is met. The proposed amendment maintains the internal consistency of the comprehensive plan and is consistent with the other elements of the comprehensive plan without the need to change other components of the plan to maintain internal consistency. This request maintains the internal consistency of the comprehensive plan by promoting more residential, commercial, and industrial development within an area of Chugach Eagle River that is centrally located with adequate access to the Glen Highway and Old Glen Highway. Due to the predicted shortage of residential land within the Anchorage Bowl, it is imperative that residentially zoned land not be lost because of any comprehensive plan amendment or rezone. Standard C is met. The proposed amendment, criteria C is met. The proposed amendment would not be detrimental to the public interest, health, safety, convenience, or welfare of the community. Amending this parcel's classification from transportation facility to development reserve will allow for the proposed subdivision and rezone of this property. This will allow for a pattern of development that will reflect the diverse and changing needs of Chugach Eagle River. This amendment will not be detrimental to the public interest, health, safety, convenience, or welfare of the community. Infrastructure will have to be extended to serve this parcel and surrounding parcels. Criteria D is met. If the proposed amendment is to the comprehensive plan map, the requested land use designation is found to be equally or more supportive of the comprehensive plan goals, objectives, policies, and guidelines than the old land use designation. This request is consistent with the following goals of the applicable comprehensive plan. Chugach Eagle River Comprehensive Plan Update 2006. 1. Economic Development. Goal A. Promote economic growth that both builds on the area's resources and assets and supports a mix of urban, suburban, and rural lifestyles while providing a range of employment opportunities and an adequate supply of a variety of goods and services. This proposed amendment to the comprehensive plan will bring residential, commercial, and industrial development to this parcel, creating a mix of urban, suburban lifestyles and providing a range of employment opportunities. 3. Land use. Goal A. Ensure an orderly, efficient pattern of development that reflects the diverse needs of the community and encourages growth that is consistent with the historical land uses, community character, and the natural environment. This amendment will allow for a rezone that will result in an efficient development that meets the needs of the Chugach Eagle River community that is consistent and compatible with surrounding properties and the neighborhood. Criteria E is met. If the proposed amendment is to the comprehensive plan map, the subject site is consistent with the adopted description and locational criteria for the requested land use designation and is physically suitable to accommodate the proposed designation, including, but not limited to, access, physical constraints, provision of utilities, and compatibility with the surrounding designations and development patterns. The proposed amendment is consistent with the locational criteria for the requested land use description of development reserve. The development reserve description is detailed in the Chugach Eagle River Comprehensive Plan update reads as follows. Development reserve. The development reserve classification is applied to areas that are generally suitable for development, but whose location and absence of public facilities and lack of projected demand make near-term and intermediate-term development uncertain. Large lot, single-family residential development is allowed by right. A public master planning process with proposed rezonings to active development districts shall occur prior to other development. This classification includes Tract B in the western portion of the Powder Reserve, adjacent to Fort Richardson Military Reservation. Master planning for development in this area should take into account program military activities to avoid potential conflicts. The subject parcel is located west of an existing single-family and multifamily development with a variety of housing types and public utilities. This public infrastructure will need to be expanded to include this new development to create a higher and better use of the property. Therefore, the Planning Department finds that the approval criteria for a comprehensive plan amendment are met. The department recommends approval of this amendment from transportation facility to development reserve, but maintain the existing subclassification of intermodal transit, given the parcel's proximity to the existing Alaska Railroad tracks. 2024-0109, rezone. Eklutna Inc. is requesting to amend the zoning map for approximately 760 acres of land from CETR Transition District to CER3 Mixed Residential, CEB3 General Business, and CEI2 Heavy Industrial Districts. The petition site is generally located west of North Eagle River exit off the Glen Highway and Eagle River. The accompanying comprehensive plan amendment and corresponding plan action will subdivide these two parcels of land into 13 parcels being heard under cases S12802 and 2024-0107. The Planning Department is recommending approval of the corresponding comprehensive plan amendment and plating action. Proposed tracts 1 through 4 are to be rezoned CER3 Multifamily Residential District. This district allows for a variety of multifamily, two-family, and single-family dwellings with gross densities of up to 30 dwelling units per acre. The higher density of a CER3 district will allow development that mitigates the physical features constraining this site, such as varying classifications of wetlands and topography, by providing those limited areas with favorable conditions for placement of structures, reducing the areas of greater slopes and poor soils that could be needed for single and two-family development. These CER3 tracts will allow for a variety of lot sizes and densities when subdivided and developed in the future. Proposed tracts A through E are to be rezoned CEB3, General Business District. This district is intended for commercial uses that provide goods and services to the community and are intended to be located on a road classified as collector or grader. These commercial uses are subject to the public view and should provide an attractive appearance with landscaping, sufficient parking, and controlled traffic movement. Adjacent residential areas should be protected from potentially negative impacts associated with commercial activities. These CEB3 tracts will allow for a variety of businesses to serve the surrounding community, such as coffee shops, restaurants, local convenience stores, small offices, or churches. This district also allows for the development of multifamily and mixed-use residential. Proposed tracts F and G are to be rezoned CEI2, Heavy Industrial District. These tracts and accompanying zoning will contain the current activities operating on the site under an approved conditional use permit. These include a municipal snow disposal site, a sand and gravel extraction site, and fill areas. Under the conditional use permit, once fill operations are completed, the site would be remedied through recontouring, seeding, and planting. An open space or green space of some sort is anticipated. A pre-application conference was held on March 20th, 2024, in accordance with AMC 21-03020B. A community meeting was held with the Eagle River Community Council on August 26th, 2024, in accordance with 21-03020C. A summary of that meeting is included in the application. The Eagle River Community Council adopted a resolution of support for the rezone. 294 public hearing notices were mailed on November 5th, 2024. As of this writing, no responses have been received from the public. As stated before, the Eagle River Community Council did provide comments. Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson had an advisory comment regarding noise generated from the adjacent military base activities. The other reviewing agencies had no objection, and their comments are attached. The Planning and Zoning Commission may recommend approval, and the Assembly may approve a rezoning if the rezoning meets all of the following criteria. Criteria 1, the rezoning shall be in the best interest of the citizens of Anchorage and shall promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. This criterion is met. This rezone is in the long-term interest of the citizens of Chugach Eagle River and in turn the municipality of Anchorage as a whole and promotes public health, safety, and general welfare. The proposed rezoning provides an opportunity for the petitioner to develop these 760 acres into residential, commercial, and industrial uses that conserves the wetlands and natural features of this land. Criteria 2, the rezoning complies with and conforms to the comprehensive plan, including the comprehensive plan maps. This criterion is met. A corresponding comprehensive plan amendment request to amend the land use plan map classification of the subject parcel from transportation facility to development reserve is being heard. Should this amendment be approved, the rezone request will be considered compliant with the parcel classification in the Chugach Eagle River Conservation Plan update. This rezone is consistent with the following policies of the comprehensive plan. 1, economic land development, as stated before in the rezone, to promote economic growth that both builds on the area's resources and assets and supports a mix of urban, suburban, and rural lifestyles while providing a range of employment opportunities and an adequate supply and variety of goods and services. And 3, land use, ensure an orderly, efficient pattern of development that reflects the diverse needs of the community and encourages growth that is consistent with historical land uses, community character, and the natural environment. This amendment will allow for a rezone that will result in an efficient development that meets the needs of the Chugach Eagle River community that is consistent and compatible with the surrounding properties and neighborhoods. Criteria 3, the rezoning is generally consistent with the zoning district purpose in the requested zone and the purpose of this title. This criterion is met. This rezoning is consistent with the purpose of the CETR zoning district. The CETR district is lands intended for future development. The permitted uses in these districts are intended to be as flexible as possible, consistent with protection from noxious, injurious, hazardous, or incompatible uses until such time as they are rezoned to a more appropriate classification in accordance with the Chugach Eagle River Comprehensive Plan. Criteria 4, the rezoning is compatible with the surrounding zoning and development and protects areas designated for specific uses on the zoning map from incompatible land uses or development intensities. This criterion is met. The proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding zoning districts. The property to the east is zoned CEPCD, Planned Community Development, and a small portion abuts CEPLI, Public Lands and Institution. The property to the west is abutting the Alaska Railroad and the CETR transition. The property to the north is CETR transition. The property to the south is Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson. Criteria 5, facilities and services including roads and transportation, water, gas, electricity, police and fire protection, and sewage and waste disposal, as applicable, are capable of supporting the uses allowed by the zone or will be capable by the time development is complete, while maintaining adequate levels of service to existing development. This criterion is met. Facilities and services will be extended as development of these parcels begins. The site is located within the police service area, Anchorage Fire Service Area, the Chugach-Birchwood Eagle River Rural Road Service Area, and the Eagle River Chugach Park and Recreation Service Area. The petition site is located outside of the Building Safety Service Area. Criteria 6, the rezoning is not likely to result in significant adverse impacts upon the natural environment, including air, water, noise, stormwater management, wildlife, and vegetation, or such impacts shall be substantially mitigated. This criterion is met. This rezoning will not result in adverse impacts on the natural environment. This rezone will allow proper development of these parcels to mitigate impacts to the natural environment. Disturbance of any wetlands will require evaluation and permitting by the appropriate authority prior to development. Criteria 7, the proposed rezoning is not likely to result in significant adverse impacts upon adjacent land uses, or such impacts shall be mitigated through stipulations. This criterion is met. The proposed rezoning will not result in significant impacts on adjacent land uses. Any future development of the property will be required to meet all Title 21 standards that are applicable to the zoning districts. Further subdivision of the property may require approval from the planning board. Criterion 8, the rezone does not extend or exacerbate a land use pattern that is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. This criteria is met. The rezone to CER3, CEB3, and CEI2 districts provides flexible zoning and development of these 760 acres. This rezone will not extend or exacerbate a land use pattern that is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. Criterion 9, the rezoning shall not result in a split zone lot. This criterion is met. The rezoning will not create a split zone lot if plating case S12802 is approved. Therefore, the department finds that all 9 approval criteria for a rezone are met. The department recommends approval of the rezoning from CETR to CER3, multifamily residential, CEB3 general business, and CEI2 heavy industrial districts.
Thank you. In the matter of case S12802, this is a request to subdivide 2 tracts into 13 tracts. We're covering 760 acres. The purpose of this plat is to create the 13 tracts with proper zoning aligned with the tracts and configuration in anticipation of development in the future. Further site design and subdivision of the individual tracts into lots will occur at the next stage of development. As I said, tonight we're just here subdividing 13 tracts out of 760 acres, so it matches up with the rezone. The Municipal Traffic Department and State DOT, they comment that TIA will be necessary once development is proposed and an application for further subdivision of the property takes place. So this plat in action is subdivided into large tracts, shows no dedication of rights-of-way or planned development at this time. And generally, reviewing agencies had either no comment or no objection to the subdivision requests, and therefore staff recommends approval of this plat, subject to conditions A, 1 through 3, found on page 4 and 5 of the staff packet. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, we will move on to the petitioner's presentation. You have 30 minutes.
See if I can get it down to 5. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Craig Bennett. I'm with S4 Group representing Agglutinin Inc. tonight. Joining me tonight is Triad Engineering, who can assist with any engineering questions the board may have. Before I begin, I want to express my gratitude to staff for the excellent work, and we're grateful for their support of this rezone. As staff has stated, this application involves 3 interconnected parts: a comprehensive plan amendment to align the land use designation with the zoning, a platting application to create tracts in support of the proposed rezone, and a rezone request to establish appropriate zoning for residential, commercial, and industrial uses. And I'll address each of these 3 parts, starting with the comprehensive plan, case 2024-0107. The eastern half of this parcel is currently designated as transportation facility, reflecting its past use under the railroad ownership. Since its sale to Eklutna in 2021, the transportation facility designation is no longer appropriate, and transportation facility is for the railroad and airport lands. This is more of a housekeeping update to make the land use designate reflect the change of ownership. So we're requesting to update this designation to development reserve, matching the western half of the parcel. This amendment was suggested by Long Range Planning and has received support from reviewing agencies. This meets all the approval criteria, and staff recommends approval of this amendment. Moving on to the plating application, case S12802. This application is a tract plat, which creates parcels without dedicating roads or development at this stage. These tracts are necessary to avoid split zone parcels. Any future development will require further plating, dedication, and department review. The plating request is straightforward, aligns with the rezone, has received no objections from any agencies, and we fully agree with staff's proposed conditions, and staff recommends approval. Let's see. And moving on to the rezone request. Case 2024-0109. Currently, the entire 760 acres is zoned CETR, Transition District. The Transition District recommends rezoning to a more appropriate classification, and we're requesting to rezone into 3 distinct zones for its intended uses. First is the CER3, Multifamily Residential District, and this would be for tracts 1 through 4. This zoning will support the development of diverse housing types, including single-family, two-family, multifamily. This will support the residential flexibility that the comprehensive plan recommends. It accommodates the land's physical features, such as a lot of wetlands, slopes, soils, and allowing a variety of lot sizes and densities. The subclassification of intermodal transit is remaining, and the Eagle River Comprehensive Plan designates areas around it should be 16 to 30 dwelling units per acre of multifamily with amenities for the residents, which the CER3 will support. The CEB3 General Business District is for tracts A through E. These tracts are designed to provide local community-focused commercial uses like coffee shops, restaurants, convenience stores, small offices, and churches. The district also allows multifamily and mixed-use developments, contributing to a walkable, vibrant community. And the last zoning is CEI2, Heavy Industrial District, and these are for tracts F and G along the railroad corridor. This zoning supports existing approved operations on the site, including a municipal snow site, sand and gravel extraction and fill activities under an approved conditional use permit. The proposed industrial zoning aligns with the Alaska Railroad corridor and is consistent with the current site usage. And Title 21 recommends heavy industrial in the railroad corridor. Community and agency support. We've actively engaged the community by holding a well-attended community meeting, and then in addition, attended 2 community councils. Feedback has been positive so far. The only submitted community response is so far is from the Eagle River Community Council in support. In addition, there have been no objections from any state or municipal reviewing agencies, and we're in full agreement with staff's recommend of approval and recommended conditions. Eklutna Inc. had an economic report drafted to help in the planning process for the Powder West site. This is in the G3 packet, rezone staff packet, 43 through 90. Pretty long report. This report provides an in-depth analysis of the socioeconomic landscape and is fairly dense with information. In the report, flexible zoning is recommended to help lay the foundation for housing at various income levels. It shows that there's a need for additional commercial zoning in Eagle River. B3 zoning makes up about 1% of the land in Eagle River, while it makes up about 3% in Anchorage. And in conclusion, this application is consistent with the comprehensive plan, meets all the approval criteria in all 3 cases. It represents a thoughtful approach to the development, balancing the residential, commercial, and industrial uses. We urge the Commission to recommend approval of this application. And thank you for your time. And I'm happy to answer any questions now or during the rebuttal.
Thank you. You have 23 minutes and 58 seconds.
Nice.
Any questions for the petitioner? Commissioner Pulis.
My only question revolves around the R3 against the J-Bear property on the south side, right? That's correct, right?
The R3, yes, there is J-Bear property to the south, west, and north.
And then there's a letter, this probably should have been directed at planning. There's a letter with some figures attached that I didn't see attached, so I couldn't see them, but I'm sure you're aware. What is the impact of that residential property being against the base? You know, is there some mitigation that has to be done or something like that? That's my question.
Yeah, so the J-Bear noise, so that's a standard letter they have, and what it is, it's the small arms peak noise contour, and it goes from Muldoon and Turpin all the way up the highway, all the way through all of downtown Eagle River, all the way up to Chugach High School, so it's a pretty big area. So the existing powder reserve, powder developments, they're all in it. All of downtown Eagle River is in it, so it's something we know. I live in Eagle River, and if you live by an airport, you know you're going to hear airplanes. If you live in Eagle River, you know you're going to hear the military. But yeah, it's a large area.
There's nothing required?
No.
Okay.
I see no further questions.
All right, thank you.
Now we'll open the hearing up to public testimony. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please step forward. State your name and spell it for the record.
My name is Daniel Page. I'm the Vice President of the Powder Ridge Homeowners Association. I'm representing the 254 homeowners in the Powder Ridge Homeowners Association. I'm also de facto representing the Phase 1 49 homeowners who are not in our HOA, the 36 homeowners in Powder View, and the 20 homeowners in the Harmony condos. And all of those are those little dots on the bottom right corner of all the maps that are in this. I appreciate the chance to be able to testify, representing all the people that live in this area. I can tell the commission that we as homeowners are not happy about any development in the area. We're very concerned about our homeowners would really like to know more details. It's been a very slow process, so there's much frustration amongst our homeowners. We have a severe lack of trust for Eklutna because we bought our property from them, and we've had several issues with Eklutna as homeowners and as homeowner associations. I'd like to point out to the commission, if you've heard the word, several people have talked about the Powder Reserve. And when I bought my house in 2005, I got a declaration for my homeowners association, and I got a declaration for the Powder Reserve. And this declaration on the Powder Reserve, and in parentheses it says a master plan community, was recorded in March of 23. It was amended in 04 and 05. It called for 3,838 home units to be in this master plan community. In 2016, Eklutna recorded Amendment 11 to the Powder Reserve, which effectively took 3,838 units down to 350 units. And all of the stuff that we're talking about here with track 38 and 39 and the 13 tracks that are going to come from it was included in this Powder Reserve. So in our opinion as homeowners, this is nothing more than Powder Reserve 2.0. And I will tell you that there was a lot of concern from our homeowners in 2016 when the master basically went out of business. Our homeowners' dues went up by 50% a quarter because our master dues went up, because we were 254 out of of 3838. All of a sudden, we were 254 out of 350. So you can see where we weren't real happy with Eklutna at that point. At that point, the few communities that did, the associations that did come to exist in the master plan, our homeowners association, Powder View, and the Harmony Condos, we got together on the master board and basically said, why do we need a master? If it was going to have 3838, then that's a reason for a master, but all of a sudden there was no reason for a master anymore. We began the process of terminating the master in 2018, and it took us until 2021 to finally terminate that. And the biggest obstacle in that process was Eklutna dragging their feet. And so it's another reason that we had issues with Eklutna. We finally did terminate the master, like I said, in 2021, and as I said, as far as we're concerned, this is nothing more than Powder Reserve 2.0. The next issue I want to get into is the mailers. And if you look through, the staff was just talking about in one of the packets, but not all three, they talk about mailers going out. And Craig was talking about when he mailed, in the packet, there's his staff memo, his memo on S4 talks about the meeting that he had on 26 August. The staff report talked about a notice that went out to 290 some people before this meeting. I'm here to tell the commission that system's broke. My house is on that map. My 254 people, homeowners in my association, are on that map. We didn't get any notice. We didn't get the notice that Craig sent. We didn't get the notice that you guys sent. I was talking to Craig before the meeting started, and he's telling me what the criteria is of how close you need to live. If you look on that map, you can see that all 359 of us are right there. There's nobody else on any other side of this developed area that has a home in the area besides us. And I'm asking this commission to change the criteria for the mailers and notifications to everybody that owns a home in that area, all 394 of us. If we did that, you would have more comments and you would have more participation. I think there's 2 or 3 of us out there today. So your mailer system is broke. Let's see, what else did I have here? I'd also like to talk about one of the main concerns that our homeowners have is we want to know where, I mean, this map that shows the 13 areas is great. That's the first time we've seen that. And 2 of those residential areas happen to be right up against our neighborhood. One of our biggest concerns is what's going to be first. And another really big thing is what's the transportation question going to be? Are they going to put a feeder road in past Eklutna Park Road that goes up in there, or are they planning on all these homeowners driving out through our neighborhood? And on that topic, there is a stretch of road which is currently titled, it's currently listed as Muni right-of-way. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the area of Powder Ridge, but when you get off the highway on Eklutna Park and you turn up into Powder Ridge by our sign, Powder Ridge Drive, which is a main feeder road, only goes about 300 yards, and it stops. But where it stops, there's what could be a road, what was supposed to be a road, that continued up into our neighborhood. In 2007, Eklutna petitioned this body to not put that road in, and they were granted that. So at this point, all the traffic in our neighborhood comes out either Conrad Drive or Vasily Drive, and neither of those are designed for the traffic that they have. But the traffic study back in '07 said they were okay. If we're going to put any more houses in the 2 commercial zoned areas that we're talking in here, we in our neighborhood, my HOA, we want to know where that traffic's going to go. And at this point, we don't have any details. And that's what's frustrating my homeowners right now. That Muni right-of-way is still designated as such. We'd like to know if there's any plans of that being turned into a road or not. There's some homeowners that we have that own property right up against that. And they're very concerned if that turns into a major road. But at the same time, we have homeowners that live on Vasily and that would be the most likely road where all this traffic would go. So that's a major concern for us. And that's about all I have, subject to your questions. Thank you.
I think that we'll probably hear from the petitioner to get answers to a bunch of your questions. But I generally will say that the next phase, they were talking about the phases of development. In the next phases is where they would propose roads, lots, and you again would get the mailers that you aren't quite happy with. But that would be your chance to make
but
public comment.
That's the problem, though. We're not getting the mailers. Your mailer list is broke. If we don't, can you see my point that?
Thank you. I mean, yeah, this is not a case, this is a case about Eklutna, and then what you're talking about is changing Title 21, so that's not what we're taking up tonight. But
Okay.
we heard you. You've been heard.
All right.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, please step forward.
Good afternoon. You'll have to forgive me, I didn't prep these remarks, so some of this will
Oh,
be...
one second, please. First, state your name and
Yep.
spell it.
My name's Kevin Heath, Kevinheath.
Okay, then just give us 1 minute, we gotta get the time.
Yep.
You're speaking as an individual?
Yeah, I'm an individual. I live in Powder View.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I'm a 15-year Alaska resident. I currently own 2 homes in Eagle River. I was previously in Powder Ridge. I now live in Powder View. So this is pretty close to home for me, literally and figuratively. I don't want to take any issue with the plan other than highlight what I think are deficiencies or things that need to be addressed if this is going to proceed. Just in my recent experience of living directly off of Eklutna Drive. So I live at 14030 Coso Drive. So my backyard backs up to Eklutna Drive. And that's one of the areas that I feel has been pretty neglected. And I worry about the consequences of that not being addressed if further development takes place. There are no sidewalks on Eklutna Drive, and they're expecting this to be a walk-around community. There's no lighting past the intersection of Eklutna and where Coso feeds into the neighborhood. This creates a variety of issues. Notably, though, I'll call it a security hazard as a guy that lives there. The rock trucks that drive up and down that, as well as the snow removal vehicles that go in and out using Eklutna, have adopted that as, I'll be kind and say, overused right-of-way land. And if you pull up any maps, I got here late, so I apologize. If you had any maps of the area, I'd like to point some stuff out, if that's possible, but no. Okay, that's convenient.
We do have the maps that are in the packets, so if
Nothing
you
we can put
refer
on
to the
here.
packets,
I didn't get a
we
packet.
can
Can I get
tell
one
you-
and I
you
can
can
talk
look
you
at it.
through it? The short and sweet of it is, though, is these vehicles, I think everyone that lives there will tell you, routinely speed. I would say that it's excessive use or liberal use of the policy of not having to cover the truck beds or the trailers. If you go to the dump and your vehicle is not tarped down and covered, you can be fined, but these trucks can drive up and down without anything. And so there's routinely rocks of large size all over the street that causes damage to vehicles. I personally have had my vehicle window hit at least twice in the last 6 months by rocks pulling out onto Eklutna Drive. There's a school bus stops on Eklutna that my kids and other kids in the neighborhood use. One of my neighbors pointed out, but this is one of the places where the speed limit is higher than the rest of Eagle River proper. It's 45 on Eklutna. And those trucks you will see, I guarantee you if you go monitor it, you will see them exceed 45 miles per hour on Eklutna Drive. And the reason this is relevant is because that's not going away. So these rock trucks and the snow removal are going to continue into what will only be a more, a busier and more dense populated area. On the extended right-of-way, and when I say right-of-way goes about 10 feet off Eklutna Road. The rest of that transitions into either Powder Ridge or Powder View HOA property. The snow plows and the rock trucks, because of their excessive use of the right-of-way, have removed nearly all of the greenbelt behind Coso Drive. And this turns into a parking lot that is convenient for them, although not the intended purpose. And the second and third order effects of that are I get construction crews parking vehicles there over extended weekends, for entire months when they're doing construction on the overpass. And it becomes the alternate bathroom facility for people that use that for that purpose. And you can smile and chuckle, but when your teenage daughter's in the backyard and someone's peeing on your fence, you will think differently when that happens to you. Needless to say, I've called Anchorage Police Department multiple times. They show up too late and they can't do anything about it. But all we're going to do is continue to increase the amount of traffic, and things like this are undoubtedly going to follow. I am active duty. It's not my role to speak on this, but I think this needs to be formally addressed by the base and the FAA for the impacts on the airspace that's immediately to the west of the railroad tracks. I would recommend that be solicited formally to the base. I do think that there will be impacts beyond what has been stated to military operations in the airspace above. That's all I think I have for the group. Unless you have questions for me, I'd love to answer them if you have some.
I see no questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else wishing to testify, please step forward. Are you speaking on behalf of yourself?
I'd say individual. I'm in the neighborhood. I live 3 doors down from Kevin.
Okay, and please state your name for the record.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pause the time because it's a long one. My name's Jaren Svoboda. First name's Jeren. Last name is Svoboda.
Thank
If you
you.
need phonetic, I can do that too pretty quick because I've done it my whole life.
I think we're good. And now we'll start the time now, or whenever you start, we'll start.
Appreciate it. So first of all, I want to thank you guys for your time. I too sit on a handful of boards, and I know that it's a thankless job more often than not. I also sit on a chair for a board, so I'm familiar with the position you're in of having to navigate everyone's concerns. I also recognize that growth is important for our community, and I appreciate that we're trying to do that. I just think it's important that we listen to all the concerns, if for anything, the name of safety, if for anything, the name of common sense, right? My big concern is, as I'm sure some of you know, they just addressed closing public schools, Fire Lake being one of them, but now we're talking about adding numerous homes right in the Fire Lake community, as well as these homes here. So to me, this is like backward steps with the assembly, or two assemblies that aren't talking to each other, right? Especially with the school district and your assembly as far as growth, right? We're building homes and closing down schools. My mind, that makes no sense, and I have a big issue with that. I'm also going to echo on some of the other things with that have been brought up, but access for this area, I get it's a huge area that I think if was used properly could be effective, and it could be a great thing for the community. I don't think that we should lie to ourselves about the limited access. We all know what limited access looks like on the Glen Highway, right? Anytime there's an accident, everyone knows how that looks. I don't know if any of you live out that way, but we all know what it looks like when there's limited access to an area. So when you're talking about limited access to an area of this size, it's just not practical. I think we all know that in our hearts. Yeah, the speed limit. I've complained numerous times and I've gotten 0 responses. In fact, I left a voicemail that said, mark my word, if and when a kid gets hurt, it's on you guys, because that speed limit's 45 miles an hour on Cluton Park Drive. Meanwhile, through the entire community of Eagle River, it's 35 miles an hour. Also, there's no lighting, there's no sidewalks, and there's kids from elementary school to middle school to high school that stand on that poorly lit corner. And I'll give you this, there is some truck drivers that are very conscientious when they drive down that road, and I appreciate that. But there's some that totally have 0 regard for the speed limit and fly by. And again, mark my word, someone is going to get hurt. It's poorly lit, you can't see well, and 45 miles an hour to an entrance of a neighborhood in a community that we're trying to develop someone's going to get hurt. We're talking about a wetland study. Are you guys familiar with the salmon that run in the creek that feeds the beaver pond behind that neighborhood? Are you guys familiar that king salmon and red salmon run through that creek that feed into that pond? And I'm just curious if any sort of study has been done as far as the impact that would have on our already reduced king salmon that come to Alaska. I think that's something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. Anyone who's lived in Alaska for 10 plus years, I'm a resident for the last 20. I think we need to look into that a little bit more. Also, I've been in the military 21 years. I know we like to bury things, all of us do, into words like multi-residential homes on 1 acre. Apologies, I forget the term you use, but just call it what it is, apartments, okay? And that's not, we're building apartments in single-family neighborhoods. I think we just need to be honest with the words we use to say what it is we're trying to build back there and how we're going to build it. I don't like that we try to hide things with words that make no sense to the layman man. I think you guys answered questions about, sounds like the continued use for the gravel pit and snow storage. That's still going to be an ongoing factor, especially with if we're increasing how many people are going into that area behind the neighborhood, and we still have that amount of trucks that operate sometimes within the confines of the time where they're supposed to be going in and out of there. I can tell you that many times they operate in and out of there all night long, all summer long, beyond 10 p.m. And then again, let's just be honest with ourselves. We talk about we want to create employment opportunities by building all this back there. Walk around Eagle River. There's employment signs everywhere. Like, that's not what we need. It's not what we need back there. There's plenty of jobs available. So I don't think that's the issue. So I don't know why we bring it up. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
I see no questions. Thank you.
He has a question.
When you complained, who did you complain to?
So I went to, oddly enough, I went to the Assembly House in Eagle River. I was given kind of went in circles. I was given an email address. I sent 3 emails and no responses. I'd have to look and see. But also I don't think a single time that I went into the Assembly office in Eagle River was anyone physically present.
Okay. You need to call like the MOA traffic engineers, you need to call Eagle River maintenance people, and you just need to make some noise about that. That sounds pretty rough, actually.
It's an issue. Like I'm telling you, there's a sled hill all the kids go to all the time. someone's going to get hurt. I promise you that. And again, to echo what Kevin said, I am in the military. I'm a gunner actually on helicopters. I use that range all the time. I think you probably need to reach out to J-Bear and address some of those impacts with that neighborhood, because I can tell you the effective range of a 50 cal, and I can tell you what can extend into that neighborhood depending on how far back you go. So I think just saying it's a small arms issue, that's not a big deal. I think we should look further into that.
Okay. Just to reiterate, you guys need to be vocal about that. Also, just to reiterate what the chair said, unfortunately, the next process is the one you guys want to get everybody in here, because that's when you're going to start seeing the plans, the roads, everything laid out. That's where you guys are going to want to show up for sure. But in the meantime, get the word out.
I appreciate it, and thank you guys for your time.
While we're giving community tips, I will just let you know, my street is very dangerous. All my neighbors are really upset about the speed of the vehicles. And I've contacted the assembly, the traffic department, everybody. I don't know that there's a lot that can be done, but maybe somebody that will be able to solve your problem is Eklutna. So I would encourage you to work with Eklutna, because they will be the ones making improvements down the line.
So how do, if you don't mind me asking, how can we control the speed limit on that road then?
Well, it turns out no matter what you do, you can't control it, because my road has a sign at 25, but people fly down that road too, much faster than 25. And my neighbors have not been successful, so I didn't want to say anything until Commissioner Pullis chimed in, so I had to add my 2 cents. You're not alone.
I appreciate that.
Anybody else wishing to speak, please step forward. The last chance before we invite the petitioner up for rebuttal.
Thank you, Craig, with S4 again, and I want to thank the community, 3 members, for coming out and speaking. And most of the comments seem to be comments, but I'll try to address some of the comments and some of the questions. Mentioned slow progress, and I agree. It takes a long time, and this is just the start, and it'll be years before actual things are built. Mailers, that's a common statement from community, and there's a certain distance from the site that the mailers are required, but they also go out to the community councils. So I say always be in touch with your community councils. Transportation, that's going to be a future issue but we are looking at it now, and we are aware. Let's see. Speed limit on Eklutna Park Drive. That's a DOT road. So that's a DOT question, and it is a collector or arterial, so it is a larger size road. That right-of-way is 81 feet wide, which right out front here, 36, is like 70 feet wide, up to 80. So this is even a bigger road in right-of-way width than right out front here. Wetlands was brought up. There was a wetland study done. It was submitted to the Corps. And we do have wetlands, a lot of wetlands on site. We do know about the creek, and we are well aware of that, and that'll be more appropriate during actual development. And I think that's it, or that's the main questions, but I'm open to any questions from the board.
I'll just ask, with no sidewalks on Eklutna Drive, is that a function of being a DOT road, or what's the explanation there?
Probably. I wasn't part of that when Eklutna Park Drive got put in by DOT, but that's something that will be looked at in the future for sure, and lighting.
Are there any other questions? I see no further questions.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, with that, we will close the public hearing. What is the will of the body? Motion by Commissioner Pullis. Would you like to state your motion?
Yes, I move in case 2024-0107 to recommend to the Anchorage Assembly approval of a comprehensive plan amendment to change the land use designation of a parcel of land from transportation facility to development reserve, but maintain the existing subclassification of intermodal transit, given the parcel's proximity to the existing Alaska Railroad tracks.
All right, that is seconded by Commissioner Krishna. Commissioner Pullis, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I'll just note that it meets the approval criteria as noted in the staff packet with definite some public pushback.
Commissioner George.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm supportive of the motion as well, and I want to note that I concur with Commissioner Pullis's concerns regarding the letter that we have in the packet from Tor Anderson at JBER, 673rd Engineering Squadron. I feel somewhat unequipped to answer the concerns that were raised by folks that have testified here tonight and the letter that was submitted, because I don't have the attachment that the letter speaks to, particularly with regard to noise reduction that is recommended if residential is to be allowed in some of the lots here. I don't have a map that shows the 87 decibel contours, and I feel like I don't have the resources available to me, and so I may ask if the administration or the department has a copy of the map that they can share with us. That would certainly be helpful. I would, at very minimum, for the assembly to also consider, because we're not prepared to look at that tonight. Thank you.
The petitioner has a copy of the map. Is that something that's in the packet that you can direct us to? Okay, we'll go to Commissioner Krishna.
Sure. And I intend to support this motion, knowing that what we're here for is some pretty limited actions. I do want to ask staff to maybe tell both us and those who are here or listening in a little bit about how the public can weigh in and what future public participation might look like, and how the public might have input into things like access and road design and other things that they have brought up today.
Through the chair, Mr. Krishna, yes, so tonight, and for the three gentlemen that testified, so the planning department writes a staff report. Planning and Zoning Commission tonight is here to make a recommendation to the assembly, and the assembly is the ultimate decision maker for these the rezone cases. You'll have a chance to attend a public hearing for that, and you'll be given time to testify as well. Like I said, they're the ones that make the final decision in the matter. And as far as the roads and the design of lots and things like that, as the chair pointed out, There'll be further, these are just large tracks that they're creating, and they're rezoning to match those with those tracks. And when Clutina decides to do further development, they'll have to go through another public hearing process, and they'll have more of a design. And they're going to have to engage the community as far as a community council meeting and go to the public hearing. That's when the design part will come out and the input. Thank you. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, very helpful.
I just to reiterate, I didn't see you guys, if you guys got that, but the homeowners association might want to know that they just mentioned that these will be recommendations to the Anchorage Assembly. There'll be a second public hearing there. Anyone else wishing to speak to the motion? This first motion is for the comp plan amendment. I also feel comfortable supporting this motion. I didn't hear a lot of pushback on the change from transportation to residential. I hear the public's complaints, but I don't see this as being a problem for them. We'll call for the vote.
Mr. Strike, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. He abstained. He's abstaining.
All right, that motion passes. Next, we'll look for the next motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
It's Francis over in the corner here. It looked like maybe there was an abstention on that vote. I don't know that you can participate in the meeting and abstain from voting. It seems to me that it might be a violation of Robert's Rules of Order that you're obligated to either do an up or down vote unless you're recused.
Commissioner George.
Thank you to the chair for the opportunity to speak. I didn't feel like it was in order to speak during the roll call. When the vote had already begun, I was handed a map showing the contour that was discussed on the previous matter, and it shows that half of the area in question is deemed by Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson as incompatible with exceptions for future land use compatibility, and half of it is compatible with restrictions. That's fairly substantive to be handed in the middle of a vote, and I just did not feel comfortable without the ability to bring that information to the rest of the body to cast a vote. So if we want to take that last matter up again, I can certainly vote, but I felt that members who may not have seen this might want to take a look at it and see if it's something that we ought to at least include as an item of recommendation for the Assembly. Thank you.
I believe everybody saw it. You were the last one.
Do we have any members on phone?
Oh, Commissioner Strike did not see it. You're correct.
And he was in favor.
But that doesn't change the fact that you need to vote yes or no.
Now that my concerns are on record, I vote yes.
Let's see. So I'm just going to change it.
All right, the record reflects the change in Commissioner George's vote, and we will move on to the next. We have two more motions in this matter. Okay, we have a suggested motion on the table. Commissioner Winchester, would you like to state your motion?
I move in case S12802 to approve the plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions shown on page 4 and 5 of the staff report.
Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Krishna. Commissioner Winchester, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I'd say in the limited matter that we're looking at here, it's pretty straightforward, and I would commend the package that the city put forward in front of us, and the property owner and their representatives in the straightforward case that they presented us with tonight. So I thought it was pretty well done, and therefore I intend to support it.
I also intend to support the motion. This plat that I see in front of us, which is just tracts of land, no right-of-ways, it doesn't initiate any development other than it aligns the property lines with the proposed rezoning. Therefore, I don't see it exacerbating the problems that we heard from the community tonight, and any future development would come along with public testimony, and those concerns would be met at that time. So that's why I intend to support. Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Mr. Strike, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes.
Sorry, just a second. If I can get it to copy.
Commissioner Ron, would you like to state your motion?
Yes, thank you. I move in case 2024-0109 to recommend to the Anchorage Assembly approval of the rezone of 13 tracts from CETR transition to CER3 multifamily residential, CEB3 general business, and CEI2 heavy industrial districts.
And that is seconded by Commissioner Krishna. Commissioner Ron, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, I concur with the department in finding that all 9 approval criteria for rezone are met. I will reiterate appreciation for members of the community that did come to testify tonight. And understanding those concerns in my own way as a member of our community, development work that doesn't currently exist can be unsettling. But applaud you for coming early in this process, and hope that you do continue to be engaged. to make your voices heard as plans become more developed for what these new zones might take. But I do intend to support the motion. Thank you.
Commissioner George.
Thank you, through the chair. I want to repeat on the record for this separate case number, the concerns raised by J-Bear and the 673rd Engineering Squadron with regard to compatible zoning and development in the western half of the tracts formerly known as 38 and 39A, specifically with regard to staff report page 6, items 4 and 7, which have to do with stating that the rezoning is compatible with surrounding zoning and development, and it protects the specific uses on the zoning map from incompatible land uses or development intensities, and draw particular attention to the J-Bear map noting an 87 decibel contour over part of this land. It may be premature for us to deal with these items here tonight. It may be something that's maybe better to take up when a proposal comes forward, but I think it's worth noting on the record, since we are making a finding as a body, that these are compatible uses. And with that, I appreciate the opportunity to make the point on the record. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak to the motion? If none, we'll call for the vote.
Mr. Strike, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. And with that, I will hand the gavel to Commissioner Krishna and wish you all a good night.
We're going to take a 3-minute recess and then come back. get back to the meeting. All right, we are going to move on to cases 2024-0116 and 2024-0117. Can we hear from staff, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request to change the Anchorage 2040 land use designation of 2 lots to town center. The current land use designation of the property is compact mixed residential medium. This new comprehensive plan amendment mirrors a request, the same request that on the property to the, on 3 lots to the west that was approved by the Assembly a few months ago. In terms of notice, there have been no public or community council comments received for this case, the comprehensive plan amendment. The applicant provided 2 resolutions of support from the Abbott Loop Community Council. Those are found on pages 25 and 34 of your packet. The Planning Department's report reviews the approval criteria and finds that the approval criteria for a comp plan amendment are not met, and therefore must recommend denial of the comp plan amendment. Attached is or enclosed is a draft assembly ordinance should the map amendment be approved. That's on page 7 of your packet. The commission is making a recommendation. There'll be a public hearing with the assembly. Switching to the rezone case 2024-0117. This is a request to rezone 2 lots, these same 2 lots from R5 low-density residential district to B3 general business district. The lots contain a little less than half an acre. The rezone application was prompted by the rezoning, successful rezoning of the 3 lots, abutting lots to the west to B3. The Assembly approved that rezone with AO 2024-2 as amended on March 5th, 2024. There were no special limitations adopted with that rezoning. You might recall that the applicant for that rezone did not want any special limitations. They wanted a straight rezoning to B3. The Planning Department did not support the rezone, was not recommending any special limitations. The commission recommended approval of the rezoning to B3 with a special limitation requiring a minimum number of dwelling units constructed in the district. That was forwarded to the Assembly, and the Assembly amended the ordinance to remove the recommended special limitation. With this case on the rezone, 127 public hearing notices were mailed. No public comments were received. The applicant provided those 2 resolutions of support from the Abbott Loop Community Council on pages 25 and 34 of this packet. A review of the approval criteria for rezoning, the Planning Department finds that approval criteria 1, 2, 3, and 8 are not met, and therefore cannot support the rezoning. Attached is a draft assembly ordinance for the assembly on page 8 of your packet. The exhibits on page 9. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also here to make a presentation.
Commissioner Ron?
Thank you through the chair. Appreciate the succinct presentation. As you open the door to it, could the department please provide a little more context and history about the lots to the west and the assembly action therein?
Sure. Thanks for the question. So the 3 lots to the west, these are on, the petition site for tonight's case is on Gollivan, And on Elim, the next property to the west, there were 3 lots all zoned R5, as this neighborhood is, or many of the lots in this neighborhood are. And 2 of the lots were vacant. One had I believe a mobile home on it. The applicant owned the 3 lots and requested a rezone to B3. Planning department, in the same fashion, did not support the rezoning. We're bound by the comp plan and the policies in Acreage 2020 and 2040. And the approval criteria for comp plan amendments and rezones, we recommended a denial. The commission recommended approval of the rezoning with recommended approval of the comp plan amendment, the exact same one as we see tonight, and recommended approval of the rezoning without the special limitation requiring a minimum number, I think it was 4 dwelling units to be developed on the property. I'm sorry, I think it ended up being 3. But so this is very similar or the same, just 1 street over on Galvin. I don't know if, I feel like maybe I was being repetitive, but is there anything else that I can help you with?
I think that answers the question, and I'll see if other commissioners have one before I add another.
Commissioner Winchester?
Yeah, on page 3 of the first case, 110116, there's a paragraph in there that says the planning department may need to revisit the Anchorage 2040 land use plan map designation for this neighborhood, given the trend of rezones. Can you speak to that, what that process would look like?
Looking at a sort of a larger amendment to the Anchorage 2040 land use plan map would take some time. Staff would have to sort of study population trends and land use designations and our land base, and then bring forward changes if there were the need to be any to this body, the Planning and Zoning Commission in a public hearing, and then to the Assembly. I'm not aware of the Planning Department having that on its work program for right now, so I don't know if that would occur, but it certainly wouldn't occur in time for this rezoning.
I think there's a, okay, please go ahead.
Through the chair, I just wanted to add a little bit to that comment. There has been a request from the Assembly that the Planning Department consider a targeted update to the land use plan and the comprehensive plan. I'm not sure of the schedule on that, and I cannot say when that might start, but it is something that we are considering, and it would be a much larger effort further on down the line.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Then I'll just ask if we have any information on either traffic counts or road classifications for Abbott over the last 20 years that might help us understand the trajectory of this corridor?
I don't know if I'll be able to answer that question. Abbott Road is an arterial road, and if you look in the OS&HP, it's intended to carry thousands of trips, but I don't know that, the Gallivan and Elim are substandard strip paved local roads. It's been the position of the Planning Department that just because there's residential property adjoining an arterial, it doesn't mean that it should not remain residential or have an increased residential density.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'm sorry. No other questions from the commission? We'll hear from the petitioner.
Good evening. My name is Kate Sauve, S-A-U-V-E. I'm with S4 Group, and I am the representative for the owners of the petition site for these cases. I would like to thank Francis and the rest of the staff for their excellent work on these cases. This site in question is located on the corner of Abbott Road and Gullivan Street. It is directly adjacent to the busy collector Abbott Road, across the street from the Abbott Fred Meyer. The petition site is currently zoned R5 low-density residential and is part of a developed neighborhood filled with single-family homes, mobile homes, and the occasional two-family home. However, the petition site has remained undeveloped and vacant for over 15 years, along with the two parcels to the west that were recently rezoned to B3 by this body. The applicant has not been able to sell or lease these properties in that time period. Even though the city has struggled with a lack of residential development, no one has shown any interest in developing this site or its neighboring lots into low-density housing. These vacant parcels show a distinct desire for separation of residential dwellings from the busy major arterial street that is Abbott Road. If you are looking at staff packet G5, please see page 22 for a map of the surrounding zoning districts. A parcel 1 street to the west of this site had its zoning designation changed in 2003 from R5 to ROSL, that's residential office. A parcel of land directly to the east of this site had its zoning designation changed from R5 to B3SL in 2005. 3 parcels of land directly to the west of this site had their zoning designation changed from R5 to B3 earlier this year. Each of these changes to zoning designation are for properties that sit across from a very busy B3SL commercial district and abut the busy Abbott Road corridor. These changes approved by the Anchorage Assembly show a clear pattern of change in the needs of the surrounding community. The Planning Department is recommending denial because Anchorage 2020 LUP policy number 14 does not allow for the conversion of residential zones to commercial zones. The B3 zoning district is classified as a commercial zone, even though B3 is a popular zoning for multifamily housing. In their case for proposed Assembly Ordinance 2024-102, Assembly members Brawley, Voland, and Zalatel claim that since the Title 21 rewrite in 2014, more housing units have been built in the B3 zone than in any other zone, with 22% of total new units built. Regardless, the Planning Department is still required to recommend denial unless the comprehensive plan is altered. This site and the 2 similar lots to the west closest to Abbott Road have remained vacant and undeveloped for the past 15 to 25 years, showing a clear desire buffer between developed residential lots and a busy 4-lane road. Title 21 states that the B3 district is intended primarily for general commercial uses in commercial centers and areas exposed to heavy traffic. I believe that it is a fair description of the site. Redesignating the land use for the site would allow for desired infill development between a residential district and a major arterial street. Furthermore, this proposed rezone was presented before the Abbott Loop Community Council in 2023 and in 2024. In both instances, the Community Council voted in favor of resolution of support for this comprehensive plan amendment and rezone. These resolutions are included in the staff packet. If you are looking at packet G5, please refer to pages 25 and 34. With this in mind, it is our request that the Commission votes in approval to amend the Anchorage 2040 land use designation of the site from compact mixed residential medium to town center, as well as rezone the site from R5 to B3 general business district, which would assimilate the site into the same zoning as the land to the east, south, and west. Thank you for your time, and I'll answer any questions you have.
Yes, there are questions. Commissioner Eber?
I just have one question. You mentioned that the petitioner has not been able to sell or lease it. Have they tried to sell or lease it?
They have.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, then we will reserve the rest of your time for rebuttal, and we will open it up to public hearing. Are there any members of the public here wishing to testify? There are not. You have 16 minutes. And 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Just if anyone else has any questions, if you're not going to vote in approval, I would like to address any questions you have now.
Commissioner Eber, are you still in the queue? Okay. Commissioner George.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for being here this evening and presenting. I appreciated the historical of the parcels to the east and the west. I was here for the one that we did earlier this year, but I was not in the body back in 03 and 05, so it was nice to know the history of those. My question has to do a little bit with this going from residential to a commercial use potentially without a contemplated development. I believe there's special limitations on the parcel to the east, and there were potentially special limitations considered for parcels to the west. In general, special limitations are something we're trying to not do anymore. I know there's a lot of dialogue about that. But if I recall correctly, some of the special limitations that are often used, particularly, I think the one adjacent to this, have to do with separation between commercial and residential uses. And whether that's buffer, whether that's, if you have a drive-through of some kind, headlights, going in someone's window next door kind of thing. This may be a very general level question, but are there potential impacts to the adjacent property owners that we might be missing here?
So for the SL, for the property was rezoned ROSL, the special limitations were mainly regarding a 10-foot landscaping buffer, which is now required in Title 21. For the east of the site, it was rezoned B3 SL, and that has an office building on it, and I believe that those special limitations were kind of exhaustive about how the site needed to be set up and the parking exactly. I have it somewhere in here. But mostly they're having to do with landscaping, which is a 10-foot buffer of landscaping, which is now required in code, up to 15 feet, average feet.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to note that there is that separation concern, and without having a contemplated development in front of us, knowing that there is a code protection to specifically call for landscaping separation is certainly one thing that helps put my mind at ease. But I wanted to flag that for my fellow commissioners as well. Thank you.
Of course. Anything else?
No, I'm not seeing any other questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. We will close the public hearing, and Commissioner Polis, did you have a question?
I just looked up your question, the traffic expected on an arterial, and the Anchorage Design Criteria Manual says it's expected to be around 20,000 vehicles per day.
Sounds good. I guess I was wondering what it used to be when we, designated these sites as low-density residential.
It's a lot. I drive it every day. There's a lot of cars on Abbott Road.
Well, move on to, I'll entertain a motion now. Moved by Commissioner Polis. Would you like to speak to your motion? Or would you like to state your motion?
Yes, thank you. I move in case 2024-0116 to recommend to the Anchorage Assembly approval of a change to the Anchorage 2040 land use designation of 2 lots to Town Center.
That is seconded by Commissioner Eber. Commissioner Polis, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I'd just like to note that there was no public opposition and a letter of support from ALCC twice, and also that there's some history of this plan amendment being approved in this corridor locally. So,
would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Commissioner Ron?
Yeah, I'd start with, seeking a little guidance from the Commission and or the Department, understanding that the Department has clearly laid out an argument against given the facts as they see them, and it's, I think, typically the role of this commission to either concur with those findings and/or state otherwise. So perhaps I'm feeling a need to step through these, if in fact that's required. And if I miss a few or can't quite argue articulately, stop me and I'll try again. So while I appreciate staff's analysis and what they've put forward, I intend to support the motion, which would be contrary to some of those findings, I think. Given the context of the area, the development that's occurred, the use as a town center, and the lack of development on these parcels over the last 15, 20 years, that to me is a big indicator of compatibility and fit for development given what the area is now. Starting with finding A4, I would argue that the criteria is in fact met. We did hear from the department about a potentially pending targeted update to 2020 and Anchorage 2040 relevant to this case. Item 2, I believe, is met as well. I appreciate the commissioner's questioning around planning department needing to revisit the 2040 land use plan as being a vehicle for doing so. As just stated, that may be happening soon. For item 3, I believe the criterion is met as well. While a strict interpretation of policies, objectives, principles, or standards may limit us here, as initially stated, I think what we have seen in terms of development and the direction by this commission and the assembly for lots to the west kind of speak to the element of objectives and principles for site-specific uses in this area. Item 4, identification of errors or omissions in the comprehensive plan. I believe that this criterion is partially met, and I say so in the interest of understanding that these plans were written, I don't want to say at a different time, but again, to the context around current development and best use of these parcels given the area around it. And I won't postulate, I'll move on. For the next item, around proposed amendment maintains internal consistency of the comp plan and is consistent with other elements of the comp plan without need to change other components of the plan to maintain internal consistency. I would argue that the criteria is in fact met. In many regards, I would say that this element stating no regulatory action shall result in conversion of dwelling units or residentially zoned property into commercial or industrial uses unless consistent with an adopted plan is a barrier in this regard. And I think the framework has been established through Title 21, the existence of this commission and the assembly to work through those barriers, and I think we're doing that here tonight. Item C, proposed amendment would not be detrimental to the public interest, health, safety, convenience, or welfare of the community. I believe that this standard is in fact met. And again, the lack of development at low-density residential on these parcels over the last 15 to 25 years is reasoning for that. It seems to me as commissioner that there's not interest in developing those for low-density residential. Running out of a little bit of steam here, but I'll try and continue if I need to.
We appreciate your efforts. Please keep going.
Item D, if the proposed amendment is to the comprehensive plan map, the requested land use designation is found to be equally or more supportive of the overall plan goals, objectives, policies, and guidelines. Again, in context, I believe that this is at least partially met relative to, again, best development in the surrounding area. Item E, if the proposed amendment is to the comprehensive plan map, the subject site is consistent with the adopted description and locational criteria for the requested land use designation. Again, I believe that it's partially met. There's been some discussion tonight and elsewhere around the latitudes that B3 development offer. While we don't have fixed plans before us to support that in this case, again, B3 does allow for that allowance of residential development and commercial. That takes us to the end of the findings. So I'll stop and say I intend to support the motion. Thanks.
Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Seeing no one else, we'll call for the vote.
Mr. Strike, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes, and we have just one more motion to make before the end of the meeting. All right, there's another motion available for anyone who would like to make it. Moved by Commissioner Eber. Commissioner Eber, would you like to state your motion?
I move in case 2024-0117 to recommend to the Anchorage Assembly approval of the rezone of 2 lots from R5 Low Density Residential District to B3 General Business District.
Thank you. That's seconded by Commissioner George. Commissioner Eber, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I just want to say that I recognize the need for new housing in Anchorage, but I also recognize the need for commercial developments to support our residential developments. The lots next door have been rezoned to B3 earlier this year, with the surrounding lots having been rezoned in previous years. It's located along an arterial that has very high usage of traffic. I think a rezone as a method of the trend of, I guess, land use has changed, and we should consider that. I do recognize that this does not meet the criteria by the planning department and would opt to move forward what Commissioner Ron spoke about in the previous motion.
Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Commissioner George?
Thank you to the chair. I just want to speak in furtherance of Commissioner Eber and Commissioner Ron, I guess Commissioner Ron's remarks on the prior item, which is related to this one. The requirements for, or the prohibition against going from residential to business or commercial zones is underpinned by the overwhelming need for additional housing in the Anchorage Bowl due to projections which the comp plan is based on. And I think there is a very strong argument to be made that even here this evening, this body has already approved a development of 760 acres in Anchorage, which will largely be residential development at some point in the near future. And we've approved many other large residential developments in this year. I think 760 acres forward and half an acre back is not a bad ratio. And with that, I intend to support the motion.
Anyone else wishing to speak? I will also say that I intend to support the motion. I also want to say on the record that the Abbott Loop Community Council writes in support, and I think that's a good sign that the community that's most close to these proposed sites see it as a compatible use and furthering the welfare of their neighborhood. And if there aren't any other comments, then I will call for the vote.
Mr. Strike, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That passes. Thank you all. We are not quite adjourned. We have a couple other items. Are there any appearance requests? Any reports? We do have a item that was here, which is a memo from the planning director about land use actions taken at assembly meetings. Would anyone like to speak to that or ask any questions? Commissioner Eber?
I just want to again thank the new planning director on providing this for us. It's very helpful.
Commissioner Winchester?
She said what I was going to say, so thank you. It's appreciated.
Commissioner Ron?
Thank you through the chair. Just briefly, any update on the ongoing work about special limitations? Are we still on track there for our next meeting?
Through the chair to Commissioner Ron, yes, we are. We're working on providing you some information based on the questions that you asked at the last meeting. You should have those by tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. And then we are planning on continuing the discussion at the next meeting.
All right. Any other commissioners' comments? Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Commissioner Pullis and Commissioner Ron. If there aren't any objections, we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.